everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Hey Sister. Hey sister, how you doing, girl?
Oh, I'm doing well. Just trying to see who's winning so far as these Grammy Awards are concerned, because clearly you and I have not been staying abreast of pop culture in the manner in which we should.
Oh, should the right word? I don't know if it should.
Well, considering that we do have a podcast in which we kind of talk about stuff like this, I think we should. You know, you gotta
well,
be on top of the new stuff.
I think we do. I think we do fairly well. So I'm not gonna hold up. I think we do very well. I just wasn't so interested in necessarily watching the Grammys this evening.
Mhm.
But I don't know. The world has been whirling, and so tonight we talked about you won't break our souls because there's a lot going on out there that's trying to break our souls and break our spirits, but it
Right.
ain't happening. It can't happen. So, but in spirit of the Grammys, since it is on, we want to give a shout out to one of our favorite actresses, our sister from another mister, as we say, because she in our heads at least. One is Viola Davis. She earned the EGOT by earning a Grammy for her book. She did the narration for her audio book, and she received a Grammy. And
For
so
finding me.
for Finding Me. So she already was an Emmy, Oscar, and Tony award winning actress. And tonight she got that Grammy. So
Give it up for Viola
give
Davis.
it up for Viola Davis, somebody who could make look. She can make that snot bubble come out that nose and that tear run down that eye real good. That sister can act. And so
Indeed.
just so very honored to share this time and space in the world with such a phenomenal actress. And it's been great to see her. And certainly um not too happy that she necessarily wasn't nominated for Woman King, but we know what the phenomenon Woman King was, at least for us. So shout out to Viola Davis.
Yes, yes. Speaking of that, you know what I totally forgot about? The other day, it dawned on me that Emmy Award season and came and went. And our boy Lil Murder didn't get nothing. That also dawned on me the other day. Just like, remember, because we were like,
I
he
don't
should get all the awards. And
I don't think the awards they were giving this February was for that season.
well, what would it be for?
We got to look at the timeline for the criteria, because
Let me look.
check out the timeline, because I don't think for the season that we just observed, I don't think he is in that's what he's up for this,
Okay.
because we did Golden Globes, we did Emmys. Did we do Emmys? Have Emmys even know? I don't even know about what these awards. And then Oscars are, well, the Grammys are tonight. Oscars coming up.
Right.
Well, we got SAG before Oscars. I don't know. I can't keep up with all these award shows and all these things.
I mean, it is a lot, but I'm trying to see eligibility period for 2023 was June 1st, 2022 to May 31st, 2023, which is interesting. I'm not sure how you. Oh, wait, maybe they haven't happened yet. Yes, they
Mm-mm.
haven't happened yet. All right, maybe Lil Murder still has a chance. What has happened then? Because what was the man on when he, when Elvis still talking like Elvis Presley? What was that? I thought that was
That was
the
Golden Globes.
Golden Globes. Golden Globes. Okay, so Lil Murder still has time for the
I don't know. Look at when the Emmys are coming. Did y'all know when the Emmys are? Type it down in the
It
comments.
it says
Eddie,
the rules are from the eligibility period is June 1st, 2022 to May 31st, 2023. So that it's
but have they
obvious.
done the nominations for the shows?
Nominations, it opens for submissions on February 21st. So no, they haven't yet.
Okay.
Uh-huh. And then
So Jay Alphonse, we still rooting for you, um, in the work that you did, down
yes.
in the valley where the girls get naked.
Yes, I'm
So
sorry. I just went off on a tangent, but I
yeah,
just
no worries going off on a tangent. And if you haven't noticed, we're not at our normally regular scheduled time, and we probably won't go the full normally scheduled time that we go just because things have been happening. So
life has
I
been lifing.
I was so a few weeks back, I don't even know how many weeks back now, we had Dr. Brooke Mobley on and talking about I Too Cry Purple Tears and her book and her organization. And so I went to her book signing tonight. So that was one
Awesome.
of the reasons I was
Shout out
a little
Dr.
bit
Brooke.
late. So shout out to you, Dr. Brooke Mobley, for sharing your story. It is a powerful story of overcoming and persevering through domestic abuse. And one of the things she talked about was really how the psychological hold was so strong, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And so I just want to say to anybody out there who may be struggling, who you don't think you have the capacity to get out, you don't think that um, that this is not right, this is not good, but you have these weights that are holding you down and holding you back. That there is strength. Um, that you can tap into. There is some inner strength, inner reserve, whatever God that you believe in, that can help you and support you. And there are other people who have shared their stories. So get connected. Check out Dr. Brooks' book. Um, because the other thing is that domestic violence looks like a college educated doctor.
Hmm.
It looks like, a poor sister who or young teen who is dating her first boyfriend.
Hmm.
Domestic violence, it covers the gamut, and we should be on the lookout for it. So,
Indeed. Indeed.
yeah.
Yeah, and I have a coworker who is retiring, and so I was invited to an impromptu sort of retirement celebration, and so I wanted to at least go and say hello, show my face, and yeah, that's what I ended up doing. So that's why we're a little bit late, and hey, it happens. We're still hey sistering. This is how we talk. Anyway, we've had
Yeah.
some interesting conversations earlier today, so it's
Well, I want to talk about something in the sports world that we haven't talked about, and
okay.
it's partly because both of I know you say I'm the watching is non-watcher of football there is,
Yes,
but Super Bowl 57 is approaching,
it is.
and this is the first time in Super Bowl history where we have two uh, black quarterbacks leading these teams, and I wanted to give a shout out to say congratulations to Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes for their success on the football field as the leaders of their teams, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. And, I was listening to a radio program as I was driving over to Tampa earlier today and just thinking about, you know, we remember, we remember when Doug Williams, at least I remember when Doug Williams came in and won the Super Bowl for, at that time, it was the Washington Redskins, was the name of the team. But he had toiled in Tampa for years as a quarterback, right? Um, the Warren Moons of the world, the Donovan McNabbs of the world, the Michael Vicks of the world. There was always one and few or one or who may have made it to the Super Bowl, but never two. Um, there've never been as many black quarterbacks even as there are now playing because you know their style of play, even if you played quarterback in high school or what have you, they would, or college even, it would be like, let's put you over here because you're such a great athlete and your athletic prowess, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were all these things that not that far in the distant um, past that people still were questioning the capability and the cognitive abilities of black men to lead football teams. And so we said the title of tonight about you won't break our souls. So you won't break our souls. And we actually have two African American quarterbacks leading their teams. And Jalen Hurts went through a lot to get to this point. And he wasn't thought of to be the man. And he even lost his spot at Alabama and then even had to transfer. He sat behind Tua. Um, so yeah, he went through a lot to get to this point. Patrick Mahomes, I don't know, on that high ankle sprain, how he's even still walking. So I just wanted to say shout out to the brothers for persevering and um and shout out to Rihanna for being a Super Bowl um halftime performer. What say you, sister?
Well, I was just gonna say that, if so to your point about the number of black quarterbacks, obviously there's still lots and plenty of work to be done in the front office and at the coaching position. If this There's only been three black quarterbacks who won the Super Bowl to this point. Doug Williams, Russell Wilson, and of course Patrick Mahomes has previously won. And so if Patrick Mahomes win, if the Kansas City Chiefs win, then it's still three. But if you know the Eagles win, then of course now we'll be at four.
Hmm.
And when you think about the long history of the NFL, and you think of the number of black players in general, it seems like people. It's funny because people are often like, well, why do we have to still say the first black this or the first black that? It's like because people are still making history in fields that you would think that they would have already have made more headway in.
Hmm.
And then obviously considering what the NFL and what some of their practices when it came to some of the injuries to black players, their beliefs about cognitive injuries. So first they didn't believe that we had the cognitive prowess to be in those positions, and then once they started to believe it, it was like, oh, okay, well, if they get their head bashed in, it's okay because they weren't going to go that far in life anyway, like cognitively. So it's just very interesting where the NFL is. But to your point, not
Even
yet.
to recently, with the disparate payments for those retired players who were suffering from memory loss,
Yeah.
there was a disparate treatment in what the payouts were and the benefits were for black athletes, black football players in the NFL system compared to their white counterparts, which is it's like absurd that this was just happening a few short years ago.
Yeah, yeah, indeed. But what I will say is, to your point, you won't break our souls. We have two black quarterbacks, and so we're gonna be winning as a culture, if you will, regardless of whose team actually wins. But so congratulations to those guys, and of course, it'll be played in Glendale, Arizona, and Rihanna is what I'm excited about, as are many people.
Yes, they are. Yes, they
But you know,
are.
just as a very terrible segue, you know, there's I don't know how old this film is, so I need to look it up. Let me before I start talking. But there's a film called Stan, uh, about girl, you know, I'm a I'm gonna kill this young man named. Oh, okay, maybe it just premiered only it says Showtime sports documentary film premieres Stand about the life of Mahmoud Abdul Rauf. And it is we started watching it. Well, I caught the tail end of it. So this article is from February 3rd. So obviously it's pretty new. Um anyway, that I didn't see it all, but the part that I saw, first of all, Mahmoud Abdul Rauf is in incredible shape still.
Mhm.
It's pretty good looking gentleman, by the way. I think he got his whole little, you know,
Well, it was just released 3 days ago.
go right.
So,
Yeah. So we watched it. I didn't watch it all, but the part that I saw, well, I mean, I would definitely watch the whole thing. But what it was just so interesting because, you know, to see the parallels between his struggle and one of Colin Kaepernick. I don't know. I told you Colin Kaepernick was on my plane last weekend to Vegas, but anyway, whole nother
girl, you sure didn't tell us
story.
that.
Yeah. Um, Also very attractive young man, still in good shape. Um, but
Did you say, "Hey, Colin, how you
I did not.
going?"
He was on the when I got on the plane. By the time I got on the plane, because I was in the 12,000th group for we were on American, and I was like way to the back.
But you
Um,
passed by him while he was in
I
his
did,
seat.
but he was on. He was doing one of them old people on the phone with the speaker FaceTime situation. I was like, okay, but
Girl, you know if
anyway,
your sister was there, it would have
yes,
been like, "Hey,
I did.
Colin, how you going, boo? I see you, at Lisa."
Yeah, I no, well, he was in first class and I was not. So nonetheless, but
Mhm.
I it was interesting to see the parallels about what Abdul Rauf faced and how similar it was with Kaepernick's protest. And
And let's just say, so if people don't know who Mahmoud Abdul Rauf is, he is the former standout from LSU. His former name is Chris Jackson. He's from Mississippi. He
mhm.
was a phenomenal ball player. I did get to see him when he played. Let me tell you something about ball handling skills. That boy can handle that ball. Okay. He
Well,
was
I
an
mean,
amazing point guard.
they show him now, you know, him doing helping and training, you know, new players and youth players, training his son as well. Um and and then him playing in the big 3. And I'm like he said, 50 some years old to still have this level of energy proves that like how much more could his career have been. And so
Mhm.
one of the pieces of commentary was that he only played 9 years, and an athlete with his caliber 15 years is at least. And so
Mhm.
for him not to get that opportunity, and they what I do respect is that yes, they use the term that he was blackballed.
Mhm.
And now, there was there was some very interesting aspects of it because we see his coach, who was a black man, who, even though he was the leading scorer on the team at the time, traded him because he
Mhm.
didn't want to deal with the publicity anymore.
Mhm.
And then, you know, to talk about building a home. And I mean, what was there was this one scene, and he actually said exactly what I was saying while I was watching it. It's, you know, him standing because he compromised and decided to just stand during the national anthem, but he would pray. So he's
Mhm.
standing with his hand in prayer pose, praying, and you hear the boos all around. And I'm like, I mean, clearly the irony is lost on these people that you're mad at him. because he wouldn't stand for the pledge. I mean, for the national anthem, saying that it was disrespectful. But you're booing him while the national anthem is playing, while the flags are, y'all are simultaneously waving flags and booing him. How is that being respectful to the national anthem? We already, you and I've already talked about in our upbringing, in in playing in the band and everything. Our former band director, Miss Beverly Stafford, was very adamant that you do not clap or yell or cheer after the national anthem. And so the idea of it all, of them playing it at every
Sporting
sporting
event.
event, um as one of the gentlemen, and I don't know what he's one of these commentators, but I don't remember what network he's on. But anyway, as he pointed out, he's like, the national anthem is a very political song. So it's interesting that we say you're not supposed to make political statements at these um athletic events, yet you're playing a song that absolutely was a political statement. And, and by doing so, you're making a political statement. And so it was
Hmm.
just very interesting. But it's a great documentary. I think it was very well done. And but man, the stuff that that brother had to endure. I mean, they burned down his house.
Hmm. Yep.
I guess I had forgotten about that. I knew about his struggle with Tourette's. I knew about the national anthem piece, but I guess I didn't know that they had burned down that man's house. Girl, I just was like, Jesus, be a whole fence. But it's very
In
good. So,
in the same Kill, Mississippi, where one Brett Favre resides. I'ma just let that land right there for y'all.
well, we
But
know
you
Brett.
won't break our soul. That's right.
Yes,
Am
well,
I lying? No, I'm not lying.
no,
So,
no,
but we
Brett.
dropped a couple articles in there. It is airing on Showtime. And there
Mm-hmm.
are some phenomenal, phenomenal documentaries out there right now.
Mm-hmm.
So if you haven't watched Stan, I will ask, are you watching the 1619 Project? The
Yeah.
1619 Project is airing on Hulu. Now, of course, I'm here in the state of Florida where, child, they don't want to teach history. They don't want black children to know nothing. They don't want no children to know nothing about the contributions of black Americans. They also don't want in higher education any discussions about diversity, equity, and inclusion or belonging. And interestingly, I was at a little gathering with someone who's in higher education, and she echoed what we had heard from one of our friends who lives over in Texas, who works for in government setting as well, about having to go through and scrub their emails and
Mm.
delete their emails, take out communication, because all of this is being in these these free states, right, where we got freedom. They're going in because they're impacting the funding of these institutions of higher learning and government institutions by, you're not going to you can't have any training on diversity, equity, or inclusion. You can't have any mention of it. You have to change the titles of your courses and your curriculum and training. And all of this is happening in these free states, where we got all this freedom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so the 1619 Project will continue to be lambasted. But what we know, because we read it when it was originally published and listened to the podcast and now watching the documentary, it does a beautiful job of connecting contemporary stories and lived experiences to the roots of racism, to the roots of enslavement in this country. And it's so well done. When I watch the episodes that I've watched so far, I looked at my husband and I said, you know why they can't stand Nicole Hannah Jones? Because her scholarship is impeccable. The
Mhm.
scholarship in the works are impeccable. The proof sources, the scholars that she talks to. This is not just she made this stuff up and pulled it out of thin air. Like, there's evidence, there's data. And so now you're going to say, oh, well, we can't talk about these things. There's no need for these things. You will not break our souls. We will learn our history. We will teach our children history. They will learn history. And so I would say, if you haven't watched the 1619 Project, it is airs on Hulu. The last two episodes will drop this Wednesday. It's a six-part series. You won't regret watching it.
So, sister, I have a question for you. Then we know we talked about this a little bit earlier in Sunday school about the overall education of our children and where responsibility lies. What could we do? What can we be doing more of? And when I think about you know, there was a time in our history, obviously, that we were not allowed to be educated in higher education, right? And so, hence, the establishment of HBCUs, right? Historically Black colleges and universities, and then, some different funding sources came from the states, but a lot of that largely was also rooted in white supremacy and the fact that they wanted to keep segregation in higher education, right? So it wasn't like it was just all benevolent, but it begs to question: should we have a similar movement now? Should we be looking to create our own institutions for for K through 12? And I know some of them exist. Don't get me wrong. And I know it's a little bit trickier because, of course, there's always this gray area about what is segregation versus what is, in my opinion, self preservation. But it makes me wonder because, to your point, should we be teaching the 1619 project? Should we be still watching Eyes on the Prize? Should we be doing these things? Absolutely, absolutely, we should. However, everybody while everybody may have greater access to information, everybody doesn't understand the difference between opinion and, like you said, somebody like Nicole Hannah Jones, who is obviously incredibly learned. So she has absolutely done the research, found the scholars, has the source material. What is it that we should be doing differently? Because our kids spend so much time in school, but to be forced to learn things that are just blatantly not true. What do we do? Or what are your thoughts? Because I know you don't. I'm not going to ask you to have the answer to that. Again, we'd be multi-billionaires if we had the answer to all these life issues.
Well, I would say that it is incumbent upon us to provide these educational opportunities to our children. And many of us belong to organizations where we spend time around young people. And instead of doing some fluff projects, maybe those projects should be around this type of education.
Mm,
Um, you know, Catholic children go to catechism so they can learn about being Catholic. Jewish children go to Hebrew school. There are still Chinese American children who go to Chinese school to learn their language and what have you, Korean, both, any group. And so, for the unique thing about our experience is we don't, because we were not deemed human
mhm,
and
mhm,
property, um, we and came from many different tribes and countries and what have you. Um, like the Native American people who were moved out of their nations onto these reservations and then forced to get the Indian out of them, right? Go to
Mhm.
these schools. And this happened in other places around the world where there was indigenous people and people who came and colonized. Because so much of our history, language, um, traditions, all were lost,
Mhm.
it's a little bit different because we don't have just one, right?
Mhm.
Um, but what we do know, there's some history of our contributions and not just our enslavement, history of the impact of enslavement on setting up institutions and institutional practices and institutional norms and how it conflicts, you know, with our own well-being. Those things we have to teach. So I think that whether it's 1619 Project, whether it's a series like Eyes on the Prize, whether it's a the documentary on um Stand or Mahmoud Abdul Rauf, or one of the documentaries on even Shaquille O'Neal or
Mhm.
whomever,
Mhm. Mhm.
like we need to listen to our stories. We need to share our stories. We need to study the impact of the things that happen to people as a result of their story, their experience. And we need to continue it, be loud about it, be proud about it, and just never stop.
Mhm.
Does it look like a formalized school? Maybe. I think in some places it should be. People should, when our children are no longer being served, coming together, whether it's homeschooling, whether it's creating, okay, we're going to have this weekend project, and these are the things we're going to do on the weekend, and these are the things we're going to study. We don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
The books are out there, the curriculum is out there, but it also will cause those of us who are trying to lead them in this to get a little bit of education ourselves.
Okay. I mean, yes, I like that. Maybe it's not a formal schooling setting, but even like pods, right? If families can get together and pool resources and purchase materials and just if it's through the church or whatever. But I just feel like if we are not careful, we are going to be erased in this way that obviously the narrative is already being falsified and changed, but also we will be erased from all of
But
our
we need no.
contributions.
You won't break our soul. So we cannot be erased, right? So I
Hmm.
think we need to be impeccable with our words. We will not be erased. Our experiences will not be erased. You may not tell them in the books that you sell, but we're going to tell them, and we're going to share the books in which we are highlighted. I mean, the miseducation of the Negro, people still should be reading that book.
Hmm.
Native Son, people still should be reading that book. Um, their eyes were watching God. People still should be reading that book. So these fictional books, these educational books, all of these things, we should still be watching and sharing and experience. That cannot be erased. And so we need to stop saying that we're gonna be no, we're not gonna be erased. Now, God willing, I'm gonna be here another half century, okay,
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
this earth. So I'm not gonna be erased. And my life story is not gonna be erased. But will someone share it? And we have to be responsible for sharing it. We have to be responsible for I just talked about the book. We have to be responsible for passing on Dr. Brooks' book to somebody.
Right.
So we have to be responsible for passing those things on to our to our children and younger people. I always, the books that I had for my kids, I passed them on to my friends who had younger kids so that they would have those age appropriate books about variety of topics and subject matters, but by Black authors.
Hmm.
So we can start book clubs.
Right. Well, okay. So I
You can
probably
start a charter school.
I probably should have said that slightly differently. We may not be erased, but the attempts to erase us will always be there. And so it's a matter of us making certain that those attempts are fruitless.
Well, we know the attempts will always be fruitless because we move and shape the culture.
We do.
And the culture that everyone wants to be a part of.
But if people don't know and understand the role that they play, because I'm always saying that, as um I'm going to say as Black Americans, I'll use that term, or American descendants of slavery or what have you. If we are not aware of how important everything we do is to the masses and the collective, then we have fallen into the belief system that other people's experience is right. It was something I saw the other day. I think Sister Yaba Blay might have posted it. I think it was a habit about the conversation about centering. Like in our society, everything is centered around white people, right? And so we everything that is not white per se becomes almost the exception thing.
Mhm.
And it's like, no, we have to shift the narrative and center Blackness. And so it was a gentleman who I believe was an artist, and he was talking about basically why his art is not subjected to whether or not white people say it's good or white
Mhm.
people appreciate it. And he was saying, we have to center Blackness. And so, yeah, it's good because it is exactly what I wanted it to be. It is the experience that I wanted it. It helped evoke the emotion and gave the experience that I wanted it to have. And so, I think
One of the reasons why Tyler Perry has been so successful. He knew his audience and he hyper targeted to his audience, and he don't care if he ever gets an Oscar nomination.
right, that's true. So, yeah, all right. I just thought I'd bring that up. All right.
Well, there's another one out there. It's Fight the Power: How Hip Hop Changed the World. It is on PBS. And the first episode dropped last week. So again, I'm a geek out on documentary type of chick. And I know somebody is working on a documentary right now. I don't know who's that girl that's working on that documentary right now. Um, but Fight the Power: How Hip Hop Changed the World. So in 1973, hip hop was born just like me. And it is the first episode was very interesting, very deep dive, really into, again, you can't break our soul. All of the socioeconomic climate in New York at that time, the burning of these tenement buildings, trying to push people out, the destruction, the devastation, the pushing in of drugs, and all that was happening. It is phenomenal what was born out of all of that terror. Because, for lack of a better word, it was terror. It's
Mhm,
terrorizing.
mhm.
Um, that terror, that trauma, all that was born out of that. And now there is no country, I believe, in this world that you can't find and won't hear hip hop today. So
Maybe
you can't break us.
I mean,
I mean, when you have
but then again, no, because they have cruise ships now that go there,
you
and
got Korean rap artists, you have you know, you have hip hop artists like in every country. Like you would be like, well, wait a minute. How did Colombian how do we have Colombian hip hop artists, right? I
Hmm.
mean, it's everywhere. And it was born out of all of this pain, struggle, and strife that people were like they were finding a way to celebrate and have a good time. And so if you haven't watched Fight the Power yet, I say watch Fight the Power, how hip hop changed the world, to learn more about the music and the movement. Hey, and it got some ups and downs in it too. It ain't all rosy. Um, but Chuck D is one of the people behind this
Hmm.
documentary, and so I'll just say, y'all know Chuck D is the real deal. One of the forefathers at this point are one of the elders of the movement of the hip hop
Hmm.
movement. So I don't know. Did you have a chance to take a look at the first episode?
Rob had it on, but I didn't. I didn't get a chance to sit and watch it. Girl, I was
Oh.
trying. I'm still trying to catch up on All American. That is absolutely not documentary, but at this point, I have caught up. Though I'm caught up, which now I'm like, am I gonna have to go try to catch up on Yellowstone? It's a lot of stuff, but I'm caught up. I'm convinced that All American has many issues for me. But anyway, uh, so yes, I gotta jump back on these documentaries because of course because someone is working on a documentary, so it's always important for me to watch these things and see some of the different tools and techniques and how they're telling the story. Because what I will say, and this is a complete aside, but just in terms of documentary filmmaking, what I am learning in the process, it is when something has happened so long ago and there are no living witnesses to it, it becomes a lot harder to find that, as you said, that well researched information.
Mhm.
So the information is out there, don't get me wrong. But when you talk about pictures, I mean, it's just there's not a lot. Nothing that really exists. I don't even know when the camera was invented. So, but I'm sure pictures were being taken at that time, but it wasn't like this was a luxury that probably everyone had access to.
Exactly.
So things like that, you just realize again, we've talked about the movie Descendant, but how special it was for Zora Neale Hurston to be able to record Cudjoe Lewis, that and to write his words as he was saying them, is amazing because you don't have that for
Mhm.
every story that needs to be told.
And that they put her book on the shelf because it was written in the 40s,
Right.
and that they put her book on the shelf, and that one Alice Walker, author of The Color Purple, brought it back to the fore, and that then it was released in 2018, and that now you want to say in this state that we gonna that Alice Walker can't be in the reading list.
Hmm.
You won't break our soul. You gonna tell me we ain't reading The Color Purple? Boy, bye.
Well, if we're not reading it,
Boy,
we sure
bye.
gonna watch all the we gonna watch the original movie. We're gonna watch the Broadway play, and now we're coming up on another Broadway a musical. We're gonna watch the
Musical.
musical. So
Boy, bye. Is all I'm going to say to the person who sits in a governor's mansion in this state, in every state, because it's happening in all of our states if you're not paying attention to your local school board.
absolutely.
If you're
Well,
not paying attention to your local school boards. So,
it
yes,
always makes you wonder what again. Hey,
you won't break our soul.
what are people so afraid of? Because you love to hang out with black people. You always tell us that you have a black friend. Again, you love the music, you like the hairstyles, You always want to emulate the dances. What are you afraid of if kids learn that, you know, black people have actually been fighting and striving and overcoming and making things, inventing things, and creating things and excelling at sports that they weren't allowed to play? Like, what is the worst that could happen? You recognize our greatness. You clearly already recognize our greatness, or else you wouldn't be fighting so hard.
The fear is that we will recognize our greatness.
Mm. By the way, Jessica is gonna love this episode because she still talks about you in that Mr. Kyle. Mr. Kyle.
That's the thing. They're going to recognize, with their fear is that we will recognize our greatness and we will stop settling for scraps and start walking in our greatness, and not settling for scrap, and not settling for those of us around us have like the well, I made it, you can too, like that we don't reach back and pull up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what the fear is. Because if we walk in the fullness of our power, then we're unstoppable, unstoppable, unstoppable.
But yes, exactly.
Uh, release your mind, release your time, release it. All of it. That's what I'm saying. Unstoppable, unstoppable, any kind of stop. You can't stop us because you won't break us. And that's the thing. That is the thing. So it is February 5th.
It is the Black History
It
Month.
is known as Black History Month. It is known as the month of love. It's the month of heart health. All of these wonderful, wonderful things that we recognize in February. And so I think we need to recognize our own power and our own greatness.
Well, hate to make another hard transition, but
Okay, I was
speaking
about to
of
one more topic tonight, but go ahead.
oh, well, I just want to say, speaking of someone else whose soul clearly will never be broken, is George Santos.
I
So,
don't want to talk about him. Let's
well,
talk about the other
but
congressperson.
I have to say this: I did
No,
not know
let's
that
talk about
he.
Ilhan Omar. We ain't talking about that Yahoo no more.
I didn't know he claimed to be a producer on Spider-Man the musical. That's all I'm gonna say.
Ilhan Omar, the congressman from, I think it's the Minneapolis, Minnesota area, who
Hmm.
is an immigrant to this country. Is she Ethiopian or Somalian? Somalian. I think she's a Somali immigrant. Nonetheless, um, so
Well, I
now
want
that
to
the
get this right because
okay, go
we.
ahead, look it up.
I
So
am.
now that she is, the Republicans have a very, very slim majority in the U.S. House of Representatives. They wanted to vote to remove her from the Foreign Relations Committee
House Foreign
and
Affairs Committee. Yes.
House Foreign Affairs Committee, not Foreign Relations, House Foreign Affairs Committee, Foreign Affairs, Foreign Relations. Anyway, they harken back to some comments she made that they deem anti-Semitic or not pro-Israel um, a few years ago. And although she's apologized, and her other colleagues and even her Jewish colleagues stood up to defend her, she hit the nail on the head. She's an immigrant. She's a woman, and she's from Africa.
Hmm.
And really, this is about silencing the voices of women of color. And as I stated earlier, what's happening here in this state of Florida with we're removing, we're not funding. You can have no coursework you can have nothing even mentioning. Y'all need to scrub all your emails because you can't even have the word diversity, equity, or inclusion mentioned. Nope, you can't teach these books. We're removing all of these books by these Black authors. We can't have them in our school. So there is an attempt to silence these voices. And so I want to say to Representative Omar, as she said, she said, "You won't break my soul." Because she said, "You can try to silence me, but my voice is just gonna get stronger and louder." And that's what they never seem to comprehend and understand. And still I rise. Like the air. You know, the air, there's air all around me, and I can't even see it. I rise. And that's what they don't understand. I think she's going to come be stronger. I think she's going to be more formidable. And hopefully she will be more savvy in which the way she delivers her argument. Because you
Yeah.
have to be savvy and hit them right here with your words. So
I'm sorry, that gesture was a little. That was
you
that
know
was
what
what.
it is right here.
Yes, I know.
You've seen
Uh,
somebody
uh,
get hit right here, and you
uh,
know what happened.
yeah, it says,
And her colleagues, they did stand up and defend her. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez.
AOC.
I refuse to use the acronym because that's the thing. They want to no, because if you have no name, then you less than a woman.
Okay, all right.
You ain't no human being. That's why they give you nicknames and acronyms and stuff like that because they don't want to even take the time to say Alexandria. So
Ocasio Cortez. Gotcha.
Ocasio Cortez, and she said, "Oh no, we know what this is about because while Marjorie Taylor Greene, who said that forest fires were started by Jewish space lasers, while she gets these committee assignments, and someone who threatened her physically, and other of you men in that chamber heard it and witnessed it and did not defend her as a woman." Okay, yeah, we see you people and exactly what you're doing. So go on, Representative Omar, and we ain't talking about that drag queen from New York no more.
Well, I am going to talk about the drag queen from New York because what I want to say is it does speak to um the double tongueness of it all. It does speak to the
The forked
hypocrisy of
tongue,
the forked
yes.
tongue of it all. Yes. The double-mindedness of it all.
Mhm.
The hypocrisy of it all. Because at the end of the day, whether you are Republican or Democrat or you choose to be labeled as an independent, whatever, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this woman was duly elected to serve, and she was sent there by her constituents, and the expectation of her constituents, just like the expectations of all constituents, should be that my representative is representing me and my interests and the interests of the constituents in their respective districts. And so for there to be a complete fraud who is now sitting on committees and has gotten committee assignments because he was a part of the illegitimate and repetitive voting that took place to get Kevin McCarthy in seated as Speaker of the House. Um, it speaks volumes to it, where we are, you know,
Mhm.
and we're sending these people with our votes to represent us, and yet they would be more willing to have somebody who lies about damn near everything, just everything for no reason. I hate that's one thing I don't like. I don't like people who lie for no reason. Like if you
Mhm.
got a somewhat sensible reason for why you had to tell a lie about something, I can get with it, right? But when you just say dumb stuff for no reason that's easily verifiable, then I don't like that. That gets on my nerves. So you would rather have that person seated on committees, but not a woman who A has been there before
Mhm.
and B who, like you said, is a Somali immigrant who has these experiences, knows what it's like to be a woman, to be an immigrant, to be a person of color, to represent a district that everybody don't look like her in it.
Mhm.
That's what this is supposed to be about at this stage. At least that's the lie that we are saying, right? We're saying that again in these very free states, in this very free country, that we're all this melting pot, even though I don't really like that terminology, but we're supposed to be better than what we see outside, right? We
Mhm.
want to go and democratize everyone else.
Mhm.
We want to bring freedom to everyone else. And yet we don't have a true sense of freedom here. I do have a problem with that. So it in addition to saying that he was a producer on and like Spider-Man the musical was like one of the worst. Like it failed miserably. Like you
Mhm.
didn't even pick something like I don't know, hell, The Color Purple, The Lion
He,
King,
sh- he should have been ahead and picked Hamilton. You know, I mean,
Hamilton,
might as
right?
well.
That would have even been more believable. But you pick
Mhm.
Spider-Man, and on top of that, now you have what is it? Sexual harassment charges that are coming out now. That is a problem for me. So yes, is he a fool? Absolutely, but the hypocrisy of it all is problematic because this woman made comments that she is profusely apologized for. But again, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who not only made comments about some Jewish lasers and forest fires, but who just straight up denied, said like people were making up what happened on 9/11. And we all know people who dealt with 9/11, like who were physically
She ran down kids from Parkland and
Parkland.
said
Yeah,
they were actors.
right.
Yes, that one.
And
Mhm.
so when we are in a place in our society where we think that behavior is okay, but Ilhan Omar's comments from 4 years ago,
Was so out of bounds.
or just yeah, that's a
And,
problem for me.
and this is the thing. And so y'all, we might get canceled and never be seen and heard from again. But even when they said about, because one of the comments was all about the Benjamins. Whenever I hear all about the Benjamins, I'm thinking Biggie and Puffy. I don't know. I'm just saying. Jewish people don't even come to my mind when I hear it's all about the Benjamins. I think about something completely different because of my lived experience.
Right. Who
And
said wait, I don't even know what you talking about. Who said something about all about the
that was
Benjamins?
one of her comments that was deemed anti Semitic because they said something about when it comes to Israel and such and that. And she said something about it's all about the Benjamins. And so I get it. We have all these tropes about Jewish people and money and whatever. But whenever I hear me all about the Benjamins, the only thing that comes up is all about the Ben. Now, what you want to do? You want to be a baller, shot caller, bro? That's what comes to my brain.
I mean, that comes to my brain, but even if that was the comment, it very well it to me that's no different than saying that uh yeah, companies are concerned about their bottom line. It's all about the Benjamins. It's about the money. It's about the bottom line. How is that different? It doesn't mean I don't think that look, I don't want to interpret her because I don't know the full context. But are you saying anytime we use Israel and money in the same sentence that makes it anti-Semitic? Because I think that's also part of the bigger issue that I'm having an issue
This
understanding.
is from 2019. Yes, those were the comments. You'll have to mhm. Yep.
I'm just having because this conversation about anti-Semitism has come up obviously as of recent. There are more instances of anti-Semitism, but I would like to have a better understanding, like of what specifically, like where the line is, because like what I'm trying to ask is like if I mention black people and watermelon in the same sentence, am I always making a racist comment, or like is or black people eat chicken? Does that mean, am I saying it because I'm racist, or am I black? Some black people do eat chicken. Some black people do not. Some white people eat chicken. Some white people do not.
Mhm.
Like, so I'm just trying to understand. I would have to understand the full context of what the comment was, though.
Mhm. Yeah.
So
I don't know. It was in 2019, and so you can go back and research it and find it. It's still out there, but that's what it was at. But again, I do think a larger conversation, to your point, needs to be had. Context definitely matters, but just because someone claims something is doesn't mean that it is.
okay, so
So,
this says, so I just looked it up, and it says Ilhan Omar says lawmakers bribed to support Israel. It's all about the Benjamin's baby, and it was a tweet apparently. Many understood the tweet as suggesting that Republicans are influenced and financed by pro-Israel groups. They say it promoting an anti-Semitic trope that Jewish people tried to control politics with money. So speaking of your point, I would not have taken that as anything to about the Jewish people. I would have taken that as we see with again this whole George Santos situation. There are those in the GOP who are willing, as Kevin McCarthy showed
to
us,
sell their soul, they willing to sell their soul.
right, as Kevin McCarthy showed us, in order to get to a certain level,
Power.
they to get power, to get influence, to be obviously placed on committees, get committee assignments. They have been. So I guess I would not have taken that statement as an insult or a trope about Jewish people. I would have probably taken that to suggest that though
The Republicans are trash.
there are
Yep.
those in the GOP who are willing to take money for a multitude of things.
hmm
So, all right, well, enough about that. Anyway, blessings
Anyway,
to Ilhan Omar. Hopefully everything turns out okay and she continues to fight the power so that they won't break her soul.
well, they can't break her soul because we can't be broke. We will not be broke. So,
Well, and we
um,
can't and they can't break her soul because we're not giving people permission to break our souls.
absolutely, you don't have no permission to do so. So, anyway, girl, we still talk the hour. What?
We did. And let me just say that there's a headline that says two House Republicans caught saying Ilhan Omar removal was the stupidest vote in the world before begging reporters to not tell GOP leadership what they said. And that's on Business Insider. So,
Girl, drop that in the comments,
oh,
honey.
I just closed it. Okay.
Okay, don't worry
No,
about it.
I'll get it. I'll get it. I
You can
get
drop it in the comments later. But we want to thank you who did tune in live with us tonight. Oh, hey, sister, I see Chandra. She dropped something in Benjamin Franklin $100 bill, y'all. Dollar bill, y'all. The big head hundreds. That's what we talk about.
it.
Anyway, we want to thank y'all for those who did tune in live. If you're watching it in a replay, if you're watching it in between the Grammys, or if you're gonna catch it later and where you catch your favorite podcast on streaming programs, we want to thank you for tuning in to Hey Sister tonight. And as we said, we cannot be broken. The only way we can be broken is if we break ourselves. And so, what I want to say to all of us out there is that all of these topics that we talked about tonight, um, only thing that can happen to us is what we allow. And so we just have to continue to stand firm and persevere and walk in our greatness. And so that's all I have to say. What do you have to say in closing, sister?
I have to say in closing that I hope the day comes where, hey, sister, is on a national platform, and that we have the opportunity to have some of these conversations that you and I enjoy having with each other. But I absolutely would love to have, you know, these sort of conversations in greater detail with people who are actually, tied to these news stories. Um, because at the end of the day and at the very beginning of the day, I think that what we are, I just want to understand. I just want to have a level of understanding and be able to have open dialogue and ask questions and get to a place where we can have honest and intriguing discourse that doesn't have to lead to arguments, fussing, or fighting. So that's what I'm looking forward to. That's all.
All right. Well, with that being said, peace out, everybody. Enjoy your week, and next week we will come to you. We may reschedule our time next week as well, because we gonna definitely have to come live and talk about Rihanna's performance. Now, I may not talk about none of that rest of that game, but I am gonna watch Rihanna as she performs um her many hits. And
Your guy Kendrick Lamar won also tonight, so
I gotta watch his concert. It's on Amazon Prime,
that's
and
true
you can
too.
watch his concert
And
in
Robert
there.
Glasper won. Congratulations to those folks. There's a lot.
Congratulations to all the Grammy winners tonight. Y'all keep on winning. They got so many damn categories now, child. I can't even keep up. Anyway, peace.
Good night.